Yo, what up, Free Talk? This is Eric Kim. Alright, turbo thought on how to increase your clout and why does this matter. So, some thoughts. So, the first thought is, what does clout mean? So I went on Wiktionary.org and looked up clout, and I guess the origin actually means to ball up, to amass. And nowadays I think the word clout is essentially synonymous with, like, you know, kind of power, notoriety, fame, influence. And you know, there's a fun I don't know, is it a Migos song, but fun Clout music video. Just search it up on YouTube. Anyways, so you know, there's people who are like apparently cool clout chasers, which is essentially just like prostituting yourself for more followers, likes, and stuff like that. But anyways, so you know, I'm just gonna talk some ideas about how to increase your clout, just in general, you know, with your photography, etc. So first and foremost, it's funny, like, you know, when I teach workshops or, you know, meet people in person who know who I am and stuff like that, the first thing they actually tell me is, oh, I love your I love your YouTube channel, or I love your videos, right? And apparently there are actually studies, and, you know, just kind of common sense dictates that we trust faces, human voices, more so than, you know, just text alone. And actually the funny thing is, you know, through my travels and stuff like that, I've actually even had people recognize me purely on my voice alone, which is pretty hilarious because I think I have quite a generic Asian voice, right? I don't think that my voice is too unique or whatever. And so I think actually the first thought is you know, start a YouTube channel. Seems like a good idea. So, you know, just if you have a Google account and you essentially already have a YouTube channel, just go to youtube.com/upload and you can start uploading videos immediately. You could just even use the YouTube app on your phone, iPhone, Android, and just record videos directly from your iPhone. I'm currently recording this on GoPro Hero 10, the ultra wide mode, 1080p, 24 FPS. And actually, I actually think that getting a GoPro for YouTube or videos or vlogs is actually best, way better than the iPhone Pro, Micro Four Thirds, etc., because it's so small, it's compact. Also, one thing that I do is when I'm vlogging, I actually turn off and disable the lights and also the front-facing LCD screen, so I'm actually able to speak better and think better and, you know, stream my ideas better than, you know, having all these superfluous equipments. And ultimately, the smaller the device, the more robust it is, the more you're gonna probably use it. Also, a big benefit of using a GoPro is, you know, now that my son Seneca is about 1 year 7 months old, he loves it. He loves to shoot videos with it. He loves to throw it around and stuff like that. I find the GoPro is actually very underrated. I think everyone should get one. But anyways, so so that seems like a good idea. Also, start your own blog, your own open source WordPress.org blog. Just use bluehost.com, install WordPress.org. And the biggest tip I have is when you're making a URL or a domain name, best to just use your first and last name.com. If not, first and last name photo.com. Use .com, don't use those other strange, you know, suffixes, because .com is essentially it's the standard and everyone sees it as legit, and it's the easiest to remember. And the reason why to use your first and last name is that it's probably your most valuable asset, and it's probably something that's not going to change in your lifetime. Whereas if you do, you know, you make your website like, you know, darkdreamyimages.com or something cheesy like that, it's not really gonna last. And also, I think the thing that's actually important to note is, you know, it's funny because I actually started my YouTube channel before even YouTube had ads and stuff like that. It was just like a fun place for me to throw my videos. Big tip is don't try to monetize your videos. It's more important to get clout than money. And also it's just kind of nice too, because like there's a period of time I think a lot of YouTubers were being punished by the algorithm, and then, you know, their subscriber penetration or viewability went down. For me, I could care less. Like some of my videos just had 1 or 2 views because I do YouTube or make videos or vlogs mostly for autotelic reasons, which autotelic means doing it for the sake of, auto means self, telos. And actually I find the biggest benefit of vlogging my thoughts is as I'm thinking through an idea, as I'm speaking through an idea, it actually helps me better process that idea and think through it. So if I want to do a blog post or a newsletter or write an essay, an article later, it's funner. And then, you know, I just think it's also just plain fun. And actually it's even funny because through my travels, I've actually discovered that when you're traveling, to tell people that you're a YouTuber or vlogger, essentially it's kind of like one of the greatest forms of current cultural clout, which is hilarious. And then everybody watches YouTube, right? Like if you look at the top, you know, 10 or 100 websites in the world, number 1's Google, and then number 2 is YouTube. And then since YouTube is owned by Google, essentially it's king, right? And the funny thing is, this is why I'm like anti-Instagram and, you know, Snapchat or Twitter, whatever, is that it doesn't matter how old or young you are, everyone uses YouTube. And every single country I've been to uses YouTube. Maybe besides, you know, mainland China, who uses youku.com, which is their version. I think everyone uses YouTube and will continue to use YouTube into the future. And then also, even one thing that I've noticed is that in terms of indexability and findability, is a lot of my YouTube videos actually get indexed better than my blog posts. And so sometimes I'll try to Google my old blog posts and I can't find them, but I'll actually find the YouTube video outlining it. And a simple way to think about it, you know, you make YouTube videos, try to write a mini essay or article within the description or text, ideally link it back to your website. In the beginning of your videos, say your name, where you're from, whatever. And also one thing that I think is really important to increase your impact and your clout is start your own self-hosted email newsletter. So one of the critical errors that I made early on in my photo entrepreneurial career is I depended everything 100% on Facebook. So I accumulated, like, you know, 80,000 plus, 100,000 plus, whatever likes on Facebook. And now, like, I post something and then 10 people might see it, right? So the biggest problem about social media is that social media becomes an intermediary, and they essentially control the pipelines, and they could essentially control how much to open or close the valve now, depending on how much money you use to quote boost the post. And it's not evil or anything, it's just how these companies make money, and that's a fact. And so having your own self-hosted newsletter, and also the reason why I'm kind of like, I had MailChimp and I got off of it, is A, MailChimp.com. I mean, it's easy to set up, but it's A, it's too expensive, and B, it's to set up and send an email, it's really slow with MailChimp because there's so many steps. You try to add too many images and stuff. I've actually found the easiest workflow for me personally with email newsletters. I use iWriter, the app on my iPhone or my iPad or my laptop, and I write it down in plain text markdown, and then I copy and paste the HTML, and then so the email, self-hosted email I use now is sendy.co, and setting it up is a huge pain in the ass, but the reward is like at least 1000x, so I think it's totally worth it. You have more control. You have I think it sends it through the Amazon SES, the email service, so it's legit as well. And yeah, and I'll just copy and paste the HTML, and then I'll attach like a PDF, and sometimes I'll export the newsletter itself into a PDF. So because you know some people like to download the PDF and just read it later, and just the reason I also like plain text is that plain text, you know, HTML, whatever, it loads way faster, and also like this thing, right? Like you get a fancy email newsletter from some company or whatever, right? You know, all the images and stuff. But then when you get an email from your friend, you're checking your Gmail or whatever, it's just all plain text, right? And then maybe at most they might attach an image, right? And so I've actually found that it feels more personable. And yeah, and as much as I hate email as a form of correspondence, it seems to be the most open form of communication, right? And also the benefit, and this is my strategy with email newsletters, like I aspire to send email newsletters that I myself would like to receive. And so being able to share some thoughts or turbo thoughts, if like my thought is, if you share an idea, right, even if the idea, even if whatever you send, right, even if it sparks one interesting idea, is totally worth it, right? And also one thing I noticed about what Phil's Coffee does, right, like I think Phil's Coffee, right, like there's a logo on their cup or their wall or something that says tell a friend. And so still telling your friends and word of mouth is the best. So like in the bottom of my email newsletters or emails, I'll be like, oh, you know, if this inspired you or sparked an interesting thought to you, feel free to forward to a friend. Include a link to the newsletter in the footer just in case people have multiple emails, want to resubscribe or subscribe with a different email, or just share it with their friends. And so word of mouth is quite good. And also the thing is with Clout, right? The question is, would you rather have Elon Musk or Kanye read your newsletter, or have like 1 trillion random people read it, right? And so it's important, like it's impossible to know, like the ideal way to build Clout is you build Clout with other people who have Clout, right? That's the game, right? But it's impossible to know who has Clout, who doesn't have Clout, etc. And so I guess the question is like, don't sell yourself short. Like for example, there's actually a lot of Hollywood actors and producers and big name producers who actually follow me and you know, have done workshops with me, have invested in my artwork and products, and done one-on-ones and stuff like that. And so, and also big name corporations and stuff like that, and big head honchos in these big companies. And so I almost think that the ideal strategy is assume as if the head honchos are actually reading your stuff. And so essentially don't dumb it down, right? Like make it as high impact and deep as possible, you know, what you think, right? So, you know, imagine as if, you know, the CEOs or the C-level suite or the influencers at Apple are reading your stuff, Microsoft, you know, Leica, whatever, have you. So don't sell yourself short, put yourself on a pedestal. It seems like a good idea, right? Also, I think one of the best ways to build clout is to don't be afraid of pissing people off or alienating your audience, because the biggest shortage we have right now is people who have balls, in my opinion. And having the courage to share what you really think, what's really on your mind, without watering yourself down. And I think this is where like Nassim Taleb is very trustworthy to me, because he himself will call out, like, you know, he calls Saudi Arabia Saudi Barbaria, he calls out Hillary Clinton Monsanto, etc. And a lot of people are afraid to call certain things or people out because they're afraid that they might be negatively impacted. Even for myself, right? Like, I think the most courageous things I think I personally actually have done is delete my Instagram, and no, the account that's currently active is actually, it's not me. I think it's a benevolent fan somewhere. And also, like, you know, have a Google talk, right? And you know, I love Google, whatever. I don't plan on deleting my Google account anytime soon. But you know, even openly blogging things which are anti-Google, like, you know, I blogged like Google is spam, and I'm very critical of a lot of things that Google does. And so don't censor yourself because you're afraid that you're going to be low-key punished for it. And you know, also like deleting my Instagram, right? Maybe I did take some sort of a low-key hit. Did take some sort of low-key hit financially, maybe. But I think in the long term, the genuineness of my clout, or my truthiness, or what I really believe in, far outweighs the small monetary ones. And actually, I think this is the big issue, is that like clout is actually more important than money, because once you get clout, it's actually very easy to make money, right? Like you know, you could teach workshops, you could sell your services, you could consult, you could sell products, whatever, and charge a premium for it. Whereas, like, and actually I think that's the whole notion of quote-unquote selling out. Selling out is not making money from what you do. Selling out is doing what is contrary to what you believe in for the sake of money. So for example, you know, like, oh, another thing that I did very, very proud of too was, you know, even though, you know, like saying what I really think about certain cameras or camera companies and stuff like that, without fear of losing, like, you know, a good face and stuff like that, right? You know, like for example, making the video like why I never plan on ever buying a new digital Leica camera again, or whatever. And so also I think, okay, and this is also another big thing, this is the funny thing, I think people, what they try to do is they seek to gain more clout, influence, followers, subscribers, whatever, in order to get to get sponsored and to get free stuff or whatever, make money off of it. But actually it's hugely ironic, because once you are sponsored, you actually lose your clout, because, like, for example, you know, let's say you're some sort of extreme athlete, right? Once you're sponsored by Red Bull or Monster or whatever, right? And then somebody asks the interview question, is like, oh, is sugar or caffeine okay for kids or whatever, right? Do you think they're going to tell their real opinion? No, you're afraid of losing your good ties with your sponsor. So that's that's not good. Or, you know, also this is why I never trust anyone who has a certain opinion or influence, who has ads or advertisements on their website, blog, videos, podcasts, whatever. So like, for example, let's say blogger X is sponsored by camera company Y, right? Then when they write camera reviews or recommendations for cameras, you can't really give them 100% true feedback or trust in what they say, because they're low-key incentivized by these things. And this is why, you know, just Google it or watch my YouTube video on like why you can't trust any photography bloggers or influencers, including Eric Kim, because everyone has a low-key hidden incentive. And this is actually why maybe Eric Kim are more trustworthy when it comes to like maybe fitness and working out and powerlifting, whatever, because like I don't make money off of it and it's not really my segment. So whatever I say, it might be wrong, but at least it's truthful and honest in terms of what I personally believe in. So don't self-censor yourself seems to be a good one. Also, I think another very important thing is don't chase trends. Just focus on yourself. I believe in the idea of like creative isolation or creative seclusion, and just write or share or create what you really believe in. So I personally have much more influence from reading philosophers or dead philosophers or the Iliad, really old school ancient stuff, reading ancient etymology, ancient Greek or Proto-Indo-European, so much more than you know, anything modern and trendy. So actually, if you want to have more influence and clout, actually the best thing is via negativa, is, you know, figuring out what to cut out. So don't watch Netflix, don't watch YouTube, don't use Instagram, don't use Facebook, don't use any media sources. And also a pro tip is don't subscribe to any streaming services. Like I don't have a Spotify, I don't have a Netflix, I don't have a Amazon Prime, whatever's. And if you're gonna watch a movie, either watch it in person and pay the money, or, you know, buy it from the Apple TV platform. And the only movies that have really inspired or influenced me is probably like the original Matrix, the movie 300, and maybe John Wick, and that's pretty much it. And so if you want to maximize your impact and your clout and your influence, reduce your sources of inspiration and focus on sources of inspiration which are kind of, I guess, older. And also note too that it doesn't have to be super like highbrow or anything. Like I've probably found much more inspiration thinking about child rearing from the movie 300, or even the movie Ninja Assassin with V, the Rain, the K-pop singer, than I have from like quote serious films. And this is my thought, is I don't really trust these like super woke, serious, you know, emo, artsy filmmakers, because they all tend to have tormented souls, and they just like, then them making the film is like a self-catharsis for them, which is okay. But the downside of that is that the vibes it gives off is very depressing and toxic. And so when you as a viewer watch it, you feel more miserable after the fact. And this is a simple thing with media, audio, podcast, video, vlogs, books, articles. Like, think about it physiologically. After you consume the thing, read the thing, watch the thing, experience the thing, like, how do you feel afterwards? Do you feel uplifted and hyped, or do you feel more depressed and pacified? This is also the big problem, I think, with social media and working out and fitness videos, whatever. Like, I I don't know, I guess it could be motivational or dismotivational, like watching Eddie Hall deadlift over 500 pounds or watching Ronnie Coleman saying lightweight baby is actually quite motivational. But if you see other people on social media or on the internet who are way buffer or more famous or cloutful than you, then and it depresses you or makes you feel envious or jealous, then that's probably not a good thing. So I would recommend you to cut that out. And just always think to yourself too, is that like it's much superior to have a large clout with a smaller group of people than a mild or even a above average influence with a huge group. So I always think this to myself, right? Like, would you rather have the elite Spartan 300s willing to die for you and your country, or would you rather have a million Persian slave hired soldiers who are essentially like zerglings who could, you know, are dispensable? So I guess that's the analogy, right? It's like, would you rather have a million zerglings, or would you rather have like 300 archons or dark archons or whatever StarCraft analogy you want to do? But anyways, and think long term, right? Like for me, my clout building has been over a decade now. I'm as of doing this video, I'm 34 years old. I'm born in 1988. I started my YouTube shenanigans and my blog I think in 2010, 2011, and I'm still going strong.